Good morning students. Again I am with you with a new topic, that is the metallurgy chapter. This is video number 6 and in this video we have to see ionic compound and characteristics of the ionic compound, that is chemical properties of the ionic compound with the help of initial. So in this video we have to see a main topic of the metallurgy chapter, that is the ionic compounds. So last video we have seen that is the different chemical and physical properties of the metals and non-metals. In that video we have seen the chemical properties of the metals. In this, metals reactions with the oxygen, reactions of metals with the water, reactions of the metals with acid, reactions of metal with other metal salt, and reactions of metal with non-metals. All this video we have seen. So जिन लोगों ने ये वीडियो नहीं देखोगे उस सभी वीडियो की लिंक इस वीडियो के डिस्क्रिप्शन में दी हुई है. So again I request to all my dear student, please like the video, share the video and subscribe the channel, that is Tantarpale Sir Advanced Science Tutorial, and press the bell icon to get notifications of all video. So let's start about the ionic compound, that is preparations, methods of preparations and chemical properties of the ionic compound. So what is in by ionic compounds? So before going to start the video, I request to all my dear students that you have to take your pen, notebook with you and take your notes itself. So देखो हम यहाँ पे ionic compound के बारे में देखेंगे. So what is mean by ionic compound? ionic compound कशाला म्हटल्या जाते? Ionic compound म्हणजे काय? तर ionic compound means those compound which are formed by transfer of electrons. देखो ionic compounds, क्वेश्चन अगर आता है व्हाट आर आयनिक कंपाउंड्स, वैसे तो क्वेश्चन 1 मार्क के लिए, 2 मार्क के लिए या फिर 5 मार्क के लिए पूछा जाता है इस टॉपिक पे. सो व्हाट आर आयनिक कंपाउंड्स? व्हाट आर आयोनिक कंपाउंड्स? आयोनिक कंपाउंड्स. सो व्हाट आर द आयनिक कंपाउंड्स? सो हम इसके बारे में लिख सकते हैं व्हाट आर आयनिक कंपाउंड्स. सो कंपाउंड्स आर फॉर्म बाय ट्रांसफर ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉन. those compounds formed by transfer of electrons is called as ionic compounds. याला आपण ionic compounds म्हणतो, बरोबर ना? those compounds formed by transfer of electrons are called as the ionic compounds, or ionic compound also defined as crystalline solid formed by the metals and non-metals, or those compound which is formed by the oppositely charged particle are also called as ionic compound. So in this second definitions, those compounds formed by opposite charge particles are called ionic compound. That is oppositely charged particle. यामध्ये एक इलेक्ट्रॉन डोनेट करणारा म्हणजे कॅटायन राहील आणि एक म्हणजे इलेक्ट्रॉन गेन करणारा तो म्हणजे ऍनायन्स राहील. तर आपण याचे डेफिनेशन्स किंवा मे बी थर्ड पॉइंट्स वी कॅन राइट, दॅट इज द compounds formed by that is cation and anion, combinations of cation and anion, combination of cations and anions are called as ionic compounds. So जे कंपाउंड इलेक्ट्रॉनच्या ट्रान्सफर मुळे तयार झालेले आहे, जे कंपाऊंड इलेक्ट्रॉनच्या ट्रान्सफरमुळे तयार झालेले आहे, जे कंपाऊंड्स अपोजिट चार्ज पार्टिकल्समुळे तयार झालेले आहेत, किंवा जे कंपाऊंड्स कॅटायन्स आणि अनायन्स याच्या कॉम्बिनेशन्समुळे तयार झालेले आहे, त्याला आपण आयनिक कंपाऊंड्स म्हणतो. ऑन अदर हँड एलिमेंट्स कॅन गेन ऑर लॉस इलेक्ट्रॉन्स इन ऑर्डर टू अटेन नोबल गॅस कॉन्फिगरेशन. कोणताही जो एलिमेंट आहे इलेक्ट्रॉन्स का लॉस करतो किंवा का गेन करतो, सो रिझन इज दॅट टू अटेन द नोबल गॅस कॉन्फिगरेशन, टू अटेन द नोबल गॅस कॉन्फिगरेशन. फॉर एक्झाम्पल, means in this case we are seeing that is the compounds formed by transfer of electron. So अगर हम एग्जांपल लेते हैं, फॉर एग्जांपल दैट इज इनिशियल. जर आपण एखादा एग्जांपल घेतलेला आहे इनिशियल, सो व्हॉट हॅपन इन दिस केस इनिशियल. सो Ni यानी की सोडियम, सोडियमचा ॲटॉमिक नंबर किती, तर 11, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन 281. सो सोडियम हैज अ टेंडेंसी to lose one electron, because if it lost one electron then it acquire noble gas configuration like that of the neon, and its electronic configuration become that is 28. So it acquire one positive charge. So in case of sodium, सोडियम जो है वो मेटल्स है, और मेटल की जो टेंडेंसी इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस करने की होती है. So as the sodium have electronic atomic number 11, its electronic configuration 281, and it has a tendency to lose the one electrons. म्हणजे सोडियमच्या आउटर मोस्ट मध्ये जो एक इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आहे, सोडियमचं इलेक्ट्रोपॉझिटिव्ह कॅरेक्टर जास्त आहे आणि इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस करण्याची ॲबिलिटी असल्यामुळे सोडियम एक इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस करेल, आणि सोडियमने जर एक इलेक्ट्रॉन जर लॉस केला तर त्याचे आउटर मोस्ट मध्ये 8 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स होईल. म्हणजे सोडियमचं इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन हे निऑन सारखं म्हणजे स्टेबल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक गॅस कॉन्फिगरेशन सारखं होईल. बराबर आहे. सो सोडियम हैज अ टेंडेंसी टू लॉस द इलेक्ट्रॉन, एंड एज इट लॉसेस one electron it acquire one positive charge on it. Similarly, chlorine, atomic number 17, electronic configuration 287, so it has a tendency to gain the electron. It has a tendency to gain the electron, so if it gain one electron, then it acquire one negative charge, because it has the electronic configuration, its electronic configuration become 288. So as it has a tendency to gain the electron, so obviously it acquire one negative charge on it, and electronic configuration become 288. So those electron lost by the sodium gained by chlorine, and sodium chloride compound is formed. So in this case sodium losses one electron and chlorine gain one electron, so the sodium chloride, solid sodium chloride is formed. Solid sodium chloride molecule is formed. So those molecule or those compound formed by transfer of electrons. या ठिकाणी सोडियमने एक इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस केलेला आहे, and chlorine gain one electrons. So those compound which is formed by the transfer of electrons or oppositely charged particle or combinations of cation and anion, it is called as the ionic compound. इसको बोलते हैं हम ionic compound. बराबर है. So other way we can write the we can write the definitions of ionic compound. That is, an ionic compound is defined as crystalline solid formed by the neatly packed ions of opposite charge. Ionic compounds are usually formed when the metals react with non-metal, and in other words, ionic compound is held together by ionic bond. बराबर है. So those compound formed by the combinations of cation and anion. On the other hand, the compound which is formed by reactions of, on the other hand, sodium जो है वो metals है, chlorine जो है वो non metals है. So fourth point we can write, that is the compound formed by the compounds formed by chemical reactions of metals and non-metals are also called as ionic compounds. Metals and non-metals are called as ionic compounds. बराबर है. So अगर हम स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में देखते हैं, सो फर्स्ट तो इसका जनरली जो है मोस्ट ऑफ द आयनिक कंपाउंड्स आर सॉलिड इन स्टेट, बराबर है. सो दिस इज द फॉर्मेशन हाउ आयनिक कंपाउंड आर फॉर्म एंड व्हाट इज द डेफिनेशंस ऑफ द आयनिक कंपाउंड. सो दिस इज द फॉर्मेशंस ऑफ आयनिक कंपाउंड्स. So this is the formations of ionic compound. Next one, what is the structure or what are the structure of ionic compounds? So यहाँ पे हमने पॉइंट लिखा है स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ आयनिक कंपाउंड. आयनिक कंपाउंडचं स्ट्रक्चर कसं राहते. सो ionic compound, as the ionic compound are formed by strong force of attraction, it has strong intermolecular force of attraction, and due to this reason it is the solid in state. So most of the ionic compound are generally ionic compounds are solid in state. So we can say that the structure of the ionic compound depends on relative size of cation and anion. So structure of, देखो नेमकं याच्यामध्ये काय होईल का स्ट्रक्चर जे आयनिक कंपाऊंडचं हे कशावर डिपेंड्स राहते. तर ज्या पद्धतीने आपण अगोदर डिस्कस केलं तर आयनिक कंपाऊंड हे कॅटायन आणि एनायन याच्या कॉम्बिनेशन मुळे तयार होते आणि याच्या कॉम्बिनेशन्स मुळे तयार झाल्यामुळे एक एलिमेंट जो आहे मीन्स मेटल हॅव अ टेंडन्सी टू लॉस द इलेक्ट्रॉन अँड नॉन मेटल हॅव अ टेंडन्सी टू गेन द इलेक्ट्रॉन्स. मग मेटलचं स्ट्रक्चर म्हणजेच नेमकं काय राहील, मेटलनं इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस केला म्हणजे कॅटायन झाला आणि नॉन मेटलनं इलेक्ट्रॉन्स गेन केला म्हणजे तो एनायन्स आणि याच्या कॉम्बिनेशन मिळूनच काय होते आयनिक कंपाऊंड तयार होते. सो स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ आयनिक कंपाऊंड, द स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ आयोनिक compounds depends upon relative size of cation and anion, cations and anion. That is the structure of compound. आयनिक कंपाऊंडचं जे स्ट्रक्चर आहे कशावर डिपेंड्स राहील तर रिलेटिव्ह साइज ऑफ cation and anions as it formed by opposite charge particle. So particular element metal have tendency to donate the electron and form cation, and non-metal have a tendency to gain the electron and acts as an anion. Another one, that is means ionic compounds include salt like the oxides, hydrides, or maybe hydroxide, sulfide, etc. For example, अब ये जो स्ट्रक्चर है आयनिक कंपाउंड का जो स्ट्रक्चर है किस पे डिपेंड्स है. सो आयनिक कंपाउंड का जो स्ट्रक्चर है रिलेटिव साइज ऑफ द कैटायन एंड एनायंस इस पे डिपेंड्स है. इसमें आयनिक कंपाउंड कौन कौन से रह सकते हैं. आयनिक कंपाउंड में भी सॉल्ट, ऑक्साइड और मे बी हाइड्रोक्साइड एंड सल्फाइड्स आल्सो. नेक्स्ट वन, आयनिक कंपाउंड इज फॉर्म by ionic compound held by strong intermolecular force of attraction, intermolecular force of attraction. तर हे जे आयनिक कंपाऊंड्स आहे यामध्ये स्ट्रॉंग इंटरमॉलिक्युलर फोर्स ऑफ अट्रॅक्शन असतो आणि ते मीन्स इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज द इलेक्ट्रोव्हॅलंट बॉन्ड और आयनिक बॉन्ड. सो वी कॅन राइट द बॉन्ड प्रेझेंट बिटवीन द bonds present in ionic compound called ionic bond, ionic bond or electrovalent bond. So those compound formed by the oppositely charged. So one is the cation and another one is the anion. So bond present in the ionic compounds are called ionic bond or electrovalent bond. यालाच आपण काय म्हणतो इलेक्ट्रोव्हॅलंट बॉन्ड सुद्धा म्हणतो. फॉर एक्झाम्पल NaCl, एक्झाम्पल ionic कंपाऊंडचा कोणता आहे तर NaCl. सो हाऊ NaCl इज फॉर्म? सो ॲटॉमिक नंबर ऑफ सोडियमचा ॲटॉमिक नंबर 11 आहे. जर याचे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन जर बघितलं तर 281. नेक्स्ट, दिस इज द सोडियम, means 11 atomic number means proton 11 and electron is also 11. So this is the nucleus, and next one the first orbit, that is the K cell. Next one the 8, that is the L cell, and another the 1, that is the electron present in the 1. That is the last cell contain 1 electron. So this is the 2 electrons in first cell. Next one the 8 electrons in another cell. Next one 1 electron in the outermost cell. This is the sodium. Next one the chlorine, atomic number chlorine चा 17, electronic configuration 287. So this is Cl. So Cl चं हे झालं न्यूक्लियस, आणि हे means first orbit 2, next one the 8 and next one the 7. So first orbit में 2 electrons, next orbit में 8 electrons, that is 2, 8 and 7. So that is the 7 electrons in the outermost orbit of the chlorine. So सोडियम मध्ये जो लास्ट सेल मध्ये 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आहे, दिस इज सोडियम and this is one is the chlorine. तर सोडियम मध्ये जो 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आहे, सोडियमची टेंडन्सी 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस करण्याची राहील, आणि क्लोरीनला 1 इलेक्ट्रॉनची जरुरी आहे, म्हणून सोडियम 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स गेन करेल. अँड कंपाऊंड इज फॉर्म, आणि कंपाऊंड सोडियम क्लोराइड फॉर्म होईल. मीन्स जर सोडियमने 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस केला तर त्यावर 1 पॉझिटिव्ह चार्ज राहील, आणि क्लोरीनने 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन गेन केला तर त्याच्यावर 1 निगेटिव्ह चार्ज राहील. जर मीन्स इफ द सोडियम लॉसेस 1 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स, so what happen? Sodium loses 1 electron, then 2, 8, its outermost orbit contain only 8 electrons. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8. So this is sodium. So after losing 1 electron, it acquire 1 positive charge. And next one the chlorine. So chlorine, that is the Cl. So 2, 8 and next one the 8 electrons. So this is the first orbit में 2 electron, next one is में 8 electrons, and another one is the last one, that is the 8 electron, that is outermost orbit. So this is the means if it gain 1 electrons, it acquire 1 negative charge. So this is the sodium chloride molecule, that is neutral sodium chloride molecule is formed. This is the sodium chloride molecule. So those molecule which is formed by transfer of electrons, it is called as ionic compound. Another one example if we take, that is the magnesium oxide. So what happen in case of magnesium? So atomic number of magnesium is 12. Electronic configuration 282. This is the electronic configuration of the magnesium. And in case of oxygen, या फिर मीन्स फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैग्नीशियम ऑक्साइड की जगह पे हम लेते हैं मैग्नीशियम क्लोराइड. सो मैग्नीशियम क्लोराइड, सो इन केस ऑफ मैग्नीशियम क्लोराइड व्हाट हैपन? सो ऑब्वियसली मैग्नीशियम हैज एटॉमिक नंबर 12, सो 282 इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन, और क्लोरीन का एटॉमिक नंबर ऑलरेडी 17 हमने देखा ही है. सो इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन ऑफ द इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन ऑफ द क्लोरीन, दैट इज द 287. So magnesium have a tendency to lose the 2 electrons. Magnesium have a tendency to lose the 2 electrons, and those 2 electron lost by magnesium gained by 2 chlorine atom, because in case of chlorine, 1 chlorine required 1 electrons. So magnesium losses already 2 electrons. As it loses 2 electrons, so these 2 electrons gained by 2 chlorine atom, and magnesium dichloride या फिर magnesium chloride molecule is formed. Means magnesium chloride जो molecule आहे, तो magnesium chloride molecule हा magnesium आणि chlorine मिळून तयार झालेला आहे. magnesiumच्या outer most orbit मध्ये 2 इलेक्ट्रॉन्स आहेत. atomic number जर बघितलं magnesiumचा तर 12. जर मॅग्नेशियमने जर मीन्स इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉन्फिगरेशन जर बघितलं तर 282, magnesium has a tendency to lose the 2 electrons and chlorine have a tendency to gain the 1 electron. So 2 chlorine atom gained by 1 electron which lost by the magnesium, and magnesium dichloride or magnesium chloride molecule is formed. So this is the structure of the ionic compounds. So NaCl and magnesium chloride is the another two examples of the ionic compounds. So what is the structure of the ionic compounds? So generally these molecules, ionic compounds, are the solid in state. The structure of ionic compound depends on the relative size of the cation and anion. Ionic compound are strongly held by intermolecular force of attraction. जैसे कि अगर हम यहाँ पे देखते हैं इन केस ऑफ सोडियम एंड क्लोरीन, सो सोडियम ने जो एक इलेक्ट्रॉन लॉस किया है वो इलेक्ट्रॉन क्लोरीन ने गेन किया है, और इसमें जो फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन है, स्ट्रॉन्ग इलेक्ट्रोस्टैटिक फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन है, जिसके वजह से सोडियम क्लोराइड न्यूट्रल मॉलिक्यूल फॉर्म हुआ है, इसको बोलते हैं हम इंटरमॉलिक्यूलर फोर्स ऑफ अट्रैक्शन. And this force of attraction due to which the sodium chloride molecule is formed, that is ionic compound formed. This is called as ionic bond or electrovalent bond, and compound is also called as ionic compound or electrovalent compound. As this compound are formed by, that is ionic compound are formed by transfer of electron or oppositely charged particle, so they are formed by strong force of attraction. And due to this reason, generally all ionic compounds are solid in state. They have high melting point, boiling point due to its structure. So this is the structure of the ionic compound. Next one we have to see, that is the physical property of the ionic compound. So ये structure के बारे में हो गया, जैसे कि सोडियम क्लोराइड और मैग्नीशियम क्लोराइड में हमने देखा कि सोडियम या फिर मैग्नीशियम, दैट इज बोथ आर मेटल, have a tendency to lose the electron. As they have tendency to lose the electron, they by losing 1 or 2 electrons from respective element, they acquire positive charge on it, and respectively chlorine have a tendency to gain the electrons, and sodium chloride or magnesium chloride molecule is formed by the transfer of electrons. This is the structure of ionic compound. Next one we have to see, that is the physical properties of ionic compound. That is, first of all we have seen that about the what is meant by ionic compound. Next one, how it is formed and structure of ionic compound is formed. Next topic, that is the physical properties of ionic compound. तर बघा विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज ऑफ आयनिक कंपाउंड, तर यामध्ये आपल्याला बघावं लागेल त्याची फिजिकल स्टेट. Next one, the melting and boiling point. Another one we have to see that it's what we called it as conductivity, and another one is the solubility. So most of the 4 topic पे हमें concentrate करना है. First one is the physical state. One is called as the physical state. Next one is the second one, melting and boiling point. Melting point and boiling point of the ionic compounds. Next one is the its solubility of ionic compounds, and another one the conductivity. So it is also conductivity. So in case of conductivity we have to see in detail, that is the electrolysis process of the ionic compounds. So देखो first topic, that is the first physical property, that is the physical state. One is the first, that is the physical state. Already we have seen physical state of ionic compound. So already we have seen that is the these compounds are in solid state. Why ionic compounds are solid state? Because these compounds are formed by strong intermolecular force of attraction. These compounds are formed by strong intermolecular force of attraction. And as these compounds are formed by strong intermolecular force of attraction, they are in a solid state. So we can write that is the these compounds are formed. These compound are formed. This compound, that is ionic compounds. So these compounds are formed by strong force of attraction, strong intermolecular force of attractions. Intermolecular intermolecular force of attractions, intermolecular force of attraction, as this compound or these compounds are formed by strong intermolecular force of attraction, and hence these are in solid state, and hence these compounds are in solid state. These compounds are in solid state, are in solid state. Most of the or all ionic compounds are in a solid state. Why? Because these are formed by strong intermolecular force of attraction or electrovalent bond. For example, NaCl, MgCl2, all these compounds are formed by the strong intermolecular force of attraction, and hence they are in solid state. These compounds are hard. These compounds are hard. These compounds are hard, but break by applying force, by applying force on it means हे जे कंपाउंड्स आहे स्ट्रॉंग फोर्स ऑफ अट्रॅक्शन मुळे तयार झाले म्हणजे ते हार्ड आहे, परंतु त्याच्यावर जर फोर्स जर अप्लाय केला तर ते ब्रेक होऊ शकते. दॅट इज they are brittle also, that is they brittle also. So this is the first topic, that is the physical state. Another one is the melting and boiling point. Melting and boiling point. So what is the melting and boiling point of the compounds? So melting and boiling point. So ionic compound has higher melting and boiling point. So as they are in a solid state, as they are in solid state, it require amount of energy. It required amount of energy to break the bond, to break the bond. या फिर हम ऐसा लिख सकते हैं as they are in a solid state, it require amount of energy to convert into liquid state. Next one, as this compound are formed by strong intermolecular force of attractions. And what is by solid state? Conversion of solid state into liquid state. So conversion of solid state into liquid state, that is the breaking of this bond. So amount of energy required to break the bond. As these compounds are formed by, compounds are formed by strong intermolecular force of attractions, intermolecular force of attractions, they required amount of energy, energy to break the bond, break these bonds. So they have high melting and boiling point, break these bonds. So they require amount of energy to break the bond. For example, melting point of MgCl2 is 714 degrees Celsius, while melting point of NaCl, solid NaCl, is over 800 degrees Celsius. So this is the melting and boiling point of the ionic compound. So from this structure, as they are in as these compounds are solid state, they require amount of energy to convert into liquid state. that is the melting, and amount of energy required or temperature at which the liquid state get converted to vapors or gaseous state, it is called as boiling point. So obviously these compounds are already in a solid state, so they require amount of energy to convert the liquid state. Similarly, the compound which is formed by strong intermolecular force of attractions, and they require amount of energy to break this bond, and hence these compounds require amount of energy to break this bond, and hence their melting and boiling point is high, so high. So this is the first property, that is the physical state, and another one the melting and boiling point. Next one property, that is the solubility. So first one we have seen, that is the physical state, that is solid state, melting and boiling point is very high due to solid state. Next one the solubility. So all ionic compounds are soluble in water. All ionic compounds are soluble in water. So all ionic compounds soluble in water. Why they are soluble in water? Because we know phenomena, that is like dissolve like. So all ionic compounds are polar in nature, and water is also polar. So like dissolve like. So ionic compound जो है वो water में dissolve हो सकते हैं. And solubility of the ionic compounds, it depends on its breaking of bonds also. Actually in this solubility किस पे depends है? So particularly ionic compounds है कैसा है, इस पे depends है. तो most of the ionic compound जो है वो वाटर में soluble है. क्यों soluble है? क्योंकि ionic compounds are formed by the transfer of electron, and as these compounds are formed by transfer of electron, they are soluble in the polar solvent such as water, and solubility tends to decrease in the non-polar solvents such as petrol, gasoline, etc. But these compounds are sparingly soluble or maybe insoluble in the non-ionic solvent like the petrol and kerosene. Next property, that is the conductivity. तर बघा विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, कंडक्टिव्हिटी मीन्स व्हॉट? कंडक्टिव्हिटी मीन्स इलेक्ट्रिक करंट. Whether the electric current pass through the solid NaCl या फिर ionic compounds or not. If the electric current pass through the solution or maybe solid NaCl compound, then it is called as good conductor. अगर substance electric current pass नहीं करता, then it is the bad conductor, or it is also called insulator. So those compound which is a good those compound which pass the electric current through it is called as the good conductor. म्हणजे ज्या कंपाउंड मधून इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इझिली पास होऊ शकते त्याला आपण गुड कंडक्टर म्हणतो, आणि ज्या कंपाउंड मधून इलेक्ट्रिसिटी इझिली पास होत नाही त्याला आपण पुअर कंडक्टर म्हणतो किंवा बॅड कंडक्टर म्हणतो. सो व्हॉट अबाउट इन केस ऑफ आयनिक कंपाउंड्स? आयनिक कंपाउंडच्या बाबतीत काय होईल? So in case of ionic compound, that is conductivity. What happen in case of conductivity of the ionic compound? So generally all ionic compounds are poor conductors of electricity in solid state due to in solid state. Why? Because they are in a solid state and there is no free space for the mobility of electron. So generally, first point, that is the generally all ionic compounds are poor conductor of electricity in solid state due to there is no space due to insufficient space for mobility of electrons. So इलेक्ट्रॉनच्या मोबिलिटीसाठी जे फ्री स्पेस पाहिजे ती स्पेस त्याच्यामध्ये राहत नाही. बट these compounds are good conductor, but ionic compounds are, but ionic compounds are good conductors. Compounds are good conductors. Ionic compounds are good conductor of electricity. Good conductors of electricity in molten state. Molten state, or also called fused state. Fused state, as well as in aqueous state. In aqueous state. Aqueous state. तर बघा विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो, यामध्ये कंडक्टिव्हिटी मध्ये, कारण जनरली आयनिक कंपाउंड्स आर पुअर कंडक्टर. जनरली ionic compounds are poor conductor of electricity in solid state. Why? Because or due to insufficient space for the mobility of electrons. Means electronच्या motion साठी तिथे जागा राहत नाही. Another one, but this compound, that is ionic compounds, are good conductor of electricity in molten state or fused state or as well as in aqueous state. तर aqueous state मध्ये किंवा molten state मध्ये किंवा fused state मध्ये हे जे compounds आहेत तर त्यामधून गुड कंडक्टिव्हिटी होऊ शकते किंवा इलेक्ट्रॉन्स पास होऊ शकते. इट मीन्स दॅट इन सॉलिड स्टेट द मोनोव्हॅलंट ऑफ आयन्स that is not possible, and ionic compound don't conduct electricity. That is there is no space, या फिर वहाँ in solid state there is no space for the mobility of the electrons. And in case of what we call it as molten state and fused state or aqueous state, there is good means conductivity. Means ionic compound shows good conductivity in molten state as well as in aqueous state. So when the electric current pass through the aqueous solution, then it is called as the electrolysis. Then it is called as electrolysis of the ionic compound. So this example we have to see in detail with the help of solid NaCl. This example, that is means conduction, or it is also called as electrolysis of NaCl. ये जो एग्जाम्पल हमें देखना है वो डिटेल में हम एक्सप्लेन करते हैं या फिर अभी डिटेल में देखते हैं. हाँ, नेक्स्ट वन इज that is the electrolysis of NaCl. What will question साइज आता है, what will happen when electric current pass through solid NaCl, aqueous NaCl, and next one the molten state or fused state NaCl. Or general questions means electrolysis of the NaCl, that is ionic compound. Electrolysis of ionic compound with the help of NaCl, ionic compound, that is NaCl. So this is the questions. So electrolysis of ionic compound NaCl. So what will happen? First one is the solid NaCl. So if we take solid NaCl, solid state NaCl. So when we take the solid NaCl and pass the electric current through it, then it is seen that electric current does not pass through solid NaCl. Electric current does not pass through solid NaCl. So we can write that is when the electric current pass through, when electric current pass through solid NaCl, then current does not pass through it, then electric current does not pass through it, then electric current does not pass through it. It means it is a bad conductor of electricity. Why? Because means in case of solid NaCl, as the solid NaCl is made up of strong intermolecular force of attraction, and due to this reason there is no space for the mobility of electron. याचा मिनिंग असा आहे की NaCl जो आहे हा स्ट्रॉंग इंटरमॉलिक्युलर फोर्स ऑफ अट्रॅक्शन्स म्हणून तयार झालेला आहे आणि स्ट्रॉंग इंटरमॉलिक्युलर फोर्स ऑफ अट्रॅक्शन्स म्हणून तयार झाल्या कारणाने त्या ठिकाणी इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पास होण्यासाठी किंवा मे बी इलेक्ट्रॉन्सला मूव्ह होण्यासाठी जागा नाही. नेक्स्ट वन इज द फ्यूज स्टेट और मोल्टन स्टेट. फ्यूज और molten state NaCl. Molten state NaCl. So what will happen? First of all we have to know about the what is by molten state. Means when the solid NaCl is heated strongly at about or at 800 degrees Celsius, then it gets converted to molten state, or it is also called as fused state. So when the solid NaCl is strongly heated over 800 degrees Celsius, then it gets converted to molten state or fused state, and particularly sodium get deposited and chlorine gas also liberated. So we can write the sodium on strongly heated at about 800 degrees Celsius, then sodium gas deposit at sodium metal deposit at the cathode, while Cl2 gas get liberated at the anode. What will happen when when the electric current pass through solid NaCl, that is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride. So sodium deposit at cathode, while chlorine gas liberated at the anode. Another one. Next one is the electrolysis of aqueous state NaCl. So what will happen when the electric current pass through the aqueous state NaCl? So NaCl on adding means when the water is added to the NaCl, then and strong electric current pass through it, then what happen? Means after passing electric current through it, then NaOH is formed along with hydrogen gas get liberated at the cathode and Cl2 gas get liberated at the anode. So this is NaCl, that is sodium chloride. Sodium chloride on means dissolved in water, and when the electric current pass through the solution, that is the aqueous state of solution of the sodium chloride, then sodium hydroxide is formed. Sodium hydroxide is formed along with hydrogen gas get liberated at the cathode and chlorine gas liberated at the anode. How it takes place? Just I explain with the help of electrolytic cell. So particular consider that is the electrolytic cell. So this is the one is called as the positive terminal and another one is the negative terminal. Just imagine. So when the NaCl aqueous state NaCl, that is additions of water takes place, so sodium sodium dissolve in a water molecule. So यहाँ पे क्या फॉर्म होगा? यहाँ पे NaOH फॉर्म होगा. H2 गैस जो है यानी कि यहाँ पे means when the sodium dissolve in particular water molecule, then sodium positive, Cl negative, H positive, OH negative, etc. is formed. So यहाँ पे NaOH फॉर्म होता है. जो H2 होगा वो निगेटिव टर्मिनल यानी कि H2 जो है इधर पास हो जाएगा, पॉजिटिव जो चार्ज है कैटायन, और Cl2 जो गैस है वो इधर. सो Cl2 गैस जो निगेटिव आयंस है वो निगेटिव आयंस यानी कि anion. So anion get liberated at the get passed toward the anode, while cation, that is positive charge, get passed toward the cathode. So here we can write that is the sodium chloride. So when electric current pass through the aqueous solutions of sodium chloride, then sodium hydroxide is formed with the liberations of hydrogen gas and chlorine gas also liberated. So ये जो तीन रिएक्शंस है ये रिस्पेक्टिव रिएक्शंस है सॉलिड NaCl के बारे में. When the electric current pass through the solid NaCl, then electric current does not pass through it, then when the electric current pass through the molten state or when we heated the solid NaCl at a higher temperature and pass electric current through it, then it get converted to sodium deposit at the cathode and chlorine gas liberated at the anode. यहाँ पे 2 क्लोरीन है तो हम यहाँ पे बैलेंस कर सकते हैं ऐसा, और यहाँ पे NaCl H2 and Cl2 gas get H2O NaCl plus H2O get converted to NaOH plus H2 gas and chlorine gas get liberated. So यहाँ पे Cl2 है तो यहाँ पे भी मुझे 2 करना पड़ेगा. सॉलिड NaCl जो है अभी ट्वाइस Na हो गया तो ट्वाइस, सो ऑक्सीजन 2 है तो यहाँ पे 2, हाइड्रोजन 4 हो गए तो यहाँ पे 4, यहाँ पे 2 और 2. So this is the electrolysis of the ionic compound, that is the with the help of the sodium chloride. तर ही विद्यार्थी मित्रांनो इलेक्ट्रोलिसिस प्रोसेस आहे. एकामध्ये आपण सॉलिड NaCl मधून इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पास केला तर सॉलिड NaCl मधून इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पास होत नाही. त्याच्यानंतर जेव्हा सोडियम क्लोराइडला किंवा सॉलिड NaCl ला स्ट्रॉंगली हिट केलं ॲट अबाउट 800 डिग्री सेल्सियस and then electric current pass through it, then solid sodium deposit at the cathode and chlorine gas liberated at the anode. Similarly, another one the aqueous state of NaCl. जेव्हा आपण NaCl ला soluble state मध्ये घेतलं मीन्स त्याला वॉटर मध्ये डिसॉल्व केलं आणि त्या सोल्युशन्स मधून जेव्हा इलेक्ट्रिक करंट पास केला तेव्हा सोडियम हायड्रॉक्साईड तयार झाला, हायड्रोजन गॅस लिबरेट कॅथोड वर झाला तर क्लोरीन गॅस जो आहे हा एनोड वर लिबरेट झाला.